The lucky one who can guess the answer correctly will get a live shout out from us by the end of this event. Don't forget to do that because we really like to get everyone actively involved in this event. Other than that, don't forget to share your best moments at America and take us on our social media platforms. And now we have an opening remark that will be delivered by the public affairs officers of the U.S. mission to ASEAN. Please give a warm welcome to Pak Jason Seymour.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much. And again, yes, I'm Jason Seymour, and I'm the Public Affairs Officer for the U.S. mission to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Thanks so much for giving me a moment to get us all started today. There is so much that I could say about our programs in terms of numbers. The last couple years have been so exciting. We've made lots of announcements. We are doubling the amount of Fulbrights that we offer, the U.S. mission to ASEAN. We, as the State Department, as the U.S. government, will be working hard to double the number of Waisili fellowships in the next couple years. Next 2 to 3 years, we're going to work it out, but there will be about 900 young fellows that we'll be sending every year. So there's a lot I could say about numbers, but I only have a couple minutes, and what I'd really like to talk to you all about today is the heart, because programs aren't just about numbers, and people aren't just numbers. We want to have special quality programs that really make a difference for people. And all of us who are involved with creating programs, we need to understand why we're doing it. What motivates us? Is it just to brag about numbers, or is it something deeper? So for me, the reason why I get so excited about these programs is a very personal reason. I think about myself as a young man in a small town with parents who were fighting a lot about paying the bills and food and rent and how they were going to make a good life for their children. And I remember I knew, even as a very young student, that the way to make a better life for myself was through education. That was the path. And I wanted to have a better life for myself. So I studied and I looked for every academic opportunity I could find. And when it was time to go to university, I hunted everywhere for scholarships, any opportunity I could find. That yearning was deep, deep within me and my heart. And so when I think about the programs that we're creating, these special programs, I think about young boys and girls or young adults who are looking for these opportunities, and I remember being one of those people and how important it was and what a difference it could make in my life. And so I know when I'm looking over the programs that we create, I'm not just thinking about how do we double this program, how do we triple this program, how do we get more people involved. I'm thinking about how can we make this a quality, life-changing opportunity. Even if it's just a week-long program. We have week-long training programs and workshops. We have academic programs that last months, professional fellowships that last weeks and weeks. No matter what the length is, I'm thinking, how do we make this high quality so that it's memorable, so that we touch people, so that we expand their minds, expand their hearts? It's important that we not forget how important quality is. And I just want to assure all of you and everyone in the audience that that is the way that all of us who are working for the U.S. government perceive these programs, that we think about these programs. We're putting a lot of attention into the design. It's not just about numbers. It's because we really, really do care. That's why we put so much energy into these programs. So that's the message that I wanted to convey right at the start, how important these programs are. It touches our hearts, it touches our minds. Anyone who's interested in our programming, we want to touch your minds and your hearts. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Pak Jason, for your wonderful opening remarks. We can all agree that education is a way to create a better living for people in this world. Next, let us hear the opening remarks from the co-head people of Indonesian Youth Diplomacy. Please welcome Kak Syahid Derajat.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm speaking on behalf of Michael, the chair of Indonesian Youth Diplomacy. First of all, thank you so much, Pak Jason and at America for providing space for us for our today's discussions. And thank you also for Latifa and Ali for joining us in our discussion today. This year is very exciting year for, especially for Indonesian youth diplomacy, because in conjunction with the Indonesia ASEAN chairmanship, we have some exciting events as well. We have some exciting agendas. This year, we're going to have ASEAN Youth Innovation Challenge, which is still going on at this moment. And we're still waiting for submissions from Indonesian youth to submit their ideas for innovations for businesses that will help Indonesia and ASEAN improve the economy in the region. And also the other events that we have is we have ASEAN Youth Symposiums that will be held in September in conjunction with the ASEAN Leader Summit, the 43rd ASEAN Summits. And it is one of the highlights of this year event. We have closed the delegation selection process or applications, but there will be a lot of opportunities for Indonesian and ASEAN young people to participate in the activities that is related to ASEAN Youth Symposium. And today we are taking this theme, connecting people through ASEAN-U.S. joint vision, because we think it's a great milestone that set the framework for the U.S. as well as for ASEAN to work together to collaborate in improving lives of the people in the region. And in the joint vision statement, there's a lot of topics covered, but few topics that are also very relevant for Indonesian youth diplomacy this year, because we have pick or select 5 topics that we think is relevant, especially for the young people in the region in ASEAN. The first one is green economy. The second one is future of education and work. We also are going to talk about digital literacy and health and what else? We still have one more. Let me check. Food security, because especially after the pandemic, it becomes one of the biggest challenge in Indonesia, and with the climate change happening across the globe today, food security is also very crucial. So I think that's all. We are very exciting. We are very excited for today's discussion, as well as looking forward for more participation from Indonesian youth as well as ASEAN youth in our ASEAN Youth Agenda activities until November. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to Kak Syahid for the opening remarks. We are excited to get to know more of the programs and platforms for us as youth to participate more. So, but before we take a deep dive into our topic discussion, we have prepared something for you to watch regarding the ASEAN Youth Agenda 2023. So, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy.
Saya meyakini bahwa ASEAN masih penting dan relevan bagi rakyat, bagi kawasan, dan bagi dunia. Bahwa ASEAN akan terus berkontribusi bagi perdamaian dan stabilitas di Indo-Pasifik.
So can we get a round of applause for the video? All right, as may you all know, this event is a collaboration between America and Indonesian Youth Diplomacy, and it will be incomplete without having one of the representatives to come here onto stage. So without further ado, allow me to invite our moderator for today's session. From Indonesia Youth Diplomacy, she is a research and advocacy officer. Please give a warm welcome to Chendi Puspita.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, hello. I'm Jenny Puspita as your moderator today for IYD Roadshow in collaboration with Ad America. So connecting with people through the ASEAN-U.S. joint vision. So in this week, just last year, ASEAN-U.S. Special Summit was held to strengthen our partnership from a strategic partnership to a comprehensive strategic partnership. From the summit, we have agreed on the ASEAN-U.S. joint vision statement. Today, we have gathered 3 speakers to talk about their expertise on economic, gender, sustainability, and emerging young leaders aspect in relation to ASEAN-U.S. relations. Please give a warm applause for today. Okay, so first, our first speaker is Muhammad Alif Istighfari as the Indonesian Hub Manager at Global Indonesia Professionals Association, GIPA. Now, Mr. Alif is also a former M&A strategy and corporate development senior associate from Deloitte and have won a 3rd highest portfolio in Wharton's high school investment competition. And today he's going to talk about the economics and the business part of ASEAN-U.S. relations. Now, please come to the floor, Mr. Alif. Okay. Now, hello, Mr. Alif.
Hello.
Now, before we start to delve deeper about ASEAN-U.S. relations, can you introduce us about Global Indonesia Professionals Association, GIPA, first?
Hello, everyone. I'm currently the representative of GIPA. My current role in GIPA is the Indonesia Hub Manager, and I'll start off with an introduction to GIPA. So GIPA, or it stands for Global Indonesian Professionals Association, is somewhat, or to put it simply, like a secretariat. That represents all the other Indonesian professionals associations or overseas hubs full of Indonesian professionals abroad. Now, this coverage is not only for young professionals like me, but also the older professionals to be able to represent them and also bring out their voices, their concerns, and also their skills and unique sets that they've been able to accumulate within their own lifetimes, so then they can contribute back to Indonesia, whether it's from their current professions abroad or going back to Indonesia, or trying to do something where they can still be participating within the actions and also the development of our country, wherever they are or within their own conditions.
Okay, so from my research as well, I can see that GIPA is a global network of Indonesian professionals and executives across ASEAN and US and G20 as well. So now, from those networks, like how do you see the current economic condition that affect the trade and investment between ASEAN and US?
Okay, so starting off from the very high level, right now, there's a lot of people coming from our side that's helping Indonesia and also U.S. bilateral trade and also investment works on a high level, where we are trying to be able to bridge mostly on the communications and also the stakeholder management, depending on our residency. Right now, we currently don't have that much of a presence in U.S., but what we're trying to do is to be able to uplift and also develop the community of human capital from Indonesia residing in U.S. so they can contribute back and possibly give their insights in regarding to either policy, in regarding to investments, and be a part of the deals themselves. Well, we've been able to establish that already with the European and also the UK counterpart. We've been heavily involved in the negotiations and the discussions between, for example, Marves and Guardian when it comes to investments with, again, UK and US counterparts. We're still trying to develop that type of initiatives with the US, but that is something that we've currently been able to do from the domestic side, where we are currently working with partners, for example, American Chamber of Commerce, to be able to bring out the development of human capital through our, for example, the event that we created last year through the B20 side event on Global Human Capital Summit. So we were able to be the official partner for that and also establish our grounds from that point on.
Okay, so I think that's like really interesting for GIPA to, connect with Indonesians abroad to network in business and investment, while also in the domestic part also connect with several chambers, which also trying to ease up their way up in their industries in Indonesia as well.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so when you're looking at trade investments from U.S. and ASEAN, how do you see the benefit of having strengthened economic relations between both regions? Because we've heard that you were saying you're already like working to connect with Indonesians abroad in the U.S. as well. Now, how do you see the benefits from doing that?
So in regarding to the benefits on the ASEAN side, first, right now our biggest necessity in order to be able to develop our economy is primarily on the funding to be able to push those sectors and develop them even more. For example, when it comes to the energy sectors, when it comes to core infrastructure, either in transportation, either in ICT or telco, those are things that we need to directly develop to be able to establish a better system for our economy, not only for just Indonesia, but also the entirety of ASEAN itself. Each country have different needs, but what I can say for sure for Indonesia is that the US side, or the US counterpart, have been massively helpful in regards to aiding us in investments, specifically for the energy sector and also the telco sector. For example, from the COP27 initiative, in the G20, in the G20 summit last year, actually, it was announced that Indonesia would be able to get an endowment of funds. And that endowment also consisted of funds that were coming from the US. We're able to receive a total of roughly about $20 billion for just being able to transition into renewable energy. And that's just an example of how much the US can actually help us when it comes to the development of our country and also our region in general. For the US side, it's also very crucial for them because the ASEAN economy or the ASEAN region also provides a lot of necessities and also goods in regards to trade. Each country are able to provide different things. For example, Malaysia are able to provide electronic parts and also electronic products outside of agriculture. A lot of other countries have been able to provide agriculture, for example, fisheries, basic commodities like rice, even spices. And there are also other things that encompasses that. But in reality, it's beneficial for both to be able to understand and also develop our economies at large.
Okay, so you've already, share your connections with the U.S. as well. So can you please tell us a bit more about the connections of, Indonesian with the ASEAN itself, the network of business that GIPA has already done?
So currently, when it comes to the KIPA side, we're still attempting to create the foundations of the network itself, because we realize that the majority of the portions of Indonesian diasporas still reside within ASEAN, and that's a very big community. So when it comes to connecting those communities, we start off with the small ones first, to be able to make sure that we can do somewhat of a experiment and also create a white paper to know what exactly are the foundations to be able to successfully connect with Indonesian communities abroad. So we've been able to do that with a lot of our bigger counterparts, specifically because we already have the network to be able to do that. For example, the UK, Europe, and also Asia Pacific. We have very strong ties with them already. And now we're being, because of the B20 event last year, we're starting to be able to create the grounds, and we are currently attempting to create more overseas professional hubs, or what we can say, Indonesian professional associations within the ASEAN region. So that's our first step. Hopefully, after that, we're able to agglomerate all of the skills and unique sets of experiences to be able to make sure that not only we're able to contribute on a global scale, but also within our region, ASEAN itself.
Okay, thank you. So from what I understand is that GIPA is following 8 industry groups, which are like financial services, healthcare and life science, technology, professional services, public sector and international organizations, industrials, products and logistics, infrastructure, energy and resources, creative, communication and media. So do you have a certain industries or sectors that would benefit the most from the implementation from your collaboration?
Well, those industries are a lot. That covers pretty much the entire economy, everything that we do in the world. But a lot of the things that we're trying to do are based on 2 things. The first one is because we're primarily a human capital-based organization. We're trying to tackle the professional services first, because a lot of our network and also the people within our organization itself work in the professional services that supports and also are complementary to other industries. So that would be the first one that will be the most impactful. The second one is that our direct links, specifically for the infrastructure on either energy or also telecommunications, is something that we're currently focusing on within those 8 pillars. And in terms of the impact, because of what we've been able to establish within B20, and because of what our what we call council, they are the heads of GIPA. What they've been able to establish themselves in regards to the relations with, let's say, Kadin or Marfest or other kementerians to support them with the investment links. Since Indonesia's top priority right now are primarily on that, that's what I would say the most two, in fact, impactful sectors that we're looking into in GIPA.
Okay, so thank you so much for such a sound discussion with Mr. Alif. Now we're moving on to the second speaker, which is Shahid Derajat. So Mr. Shahid is the employee relations expert at PT Pertamina. He also has a master's degree in industrial and labor relations at Cornell University, which proves even further the expertise of our speakers today. So he's advocating and initiatives on gender equality and respectful workplace, which is why Mr. Shahid is going to talk about the gender and sustainability aspects for today. So please welcome Mr. Shahid to the floor as well.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Mr. Shahid. So I've done my research as well, and I'm quite interested in your bio in LinkedIn. So yeah, I have done quite a bit of stalking, and it said that you're promoting gender equality in your workplace, which is Pertamina. Now, can you tell us a bit more how it looks like?
Okay, thank you so much, Chandy, for the initial questions. So maybe I would like to share a story about what motivated me to actually involve in the diversity and an inclusion issue, especially in related to gender, because I've been working for Pertamina for more than 10 years. And from my experience in the industry, not only in Pertamina, but also in energy industry in general, it is a very male-dominated business, right? It's a male-dominated industry. And from my direct experience dealing with people, because I'm in HR, I saw a lot of incidents where discrimination occurs, especially related to gender, and that was what actually motivated me to learn more about diversity issue, about gender issues, and I'll say currently the energy industry in general and what we also doing in Pertamina is we're getting better in terms of managing our diversity, especially on gender equality and women empowerment. But of course, there's a lot of challenge still that we have to work together, collaborate with a lot of stakeholders to to make the situations better for everyone, so everyone can feel welcome and comfortable at the workplace.
Okay, so I'm going back to your impressive story, but before we are going to continue, I would like to introduce you to our third speaker, which is Miss Latifa Dinar. So she is a prospective master student in School of Social Work, Columbia University. Miss Latifa was also an awardee of Wisely Academic Fellowship Program Fall 2022. Currently, she is the project officer of Young Leaders for Indonesia Foundation initiated by McKinsey and Company Indonesia. Today, Ms. Latifa is going to talk more about emerging young leaders in the ASEAN-U.S. relations. Please welcome Ms. Latifa to the stage.
Thank you for having me again.
Okay, thank you. So now maybe we can ask more follow-up questions to Mr. Shahid. So you're talking about like how the lack of women's representation in energy sectors. From what I've researched as well, that there's only 25% women of STEM graduates. So how can we ensure that the fight for diversity and inclusion in HR is not only limited in the workplace, but also for equal access in education and training as well? Because especially considering that STEM careers are, often referred as the job of the future, about innovation, inclusive growth, and sustainable development. So maybe you can tell us more about it.
Okay, thank you so much. When we are talking about STEM related to gender issues, I think as I mentioned before, one of the major fields in STEM is energy industry, and it's a male-dominated industry, and that's basically what also happened in other STEM fields, right? And I think one of the biggest challenge that we face in Indonesia and ASEAN in general is the stereotypes that still exist in our society, because a lot of people, the majority of population thinks that STEM fields is for men, right? So what we have, for example, in my company in Pertamina, the female populations is still less than 20%, and that's basically what also happened in other major oil companies or energy companies, and that's one of the challenge for us, because I think a lot of research has shown and proven that by improving gender diversity, not only in the workforce, but also especially in the leadership positions, will lead to a better business outcome by, creating better business decision making. So it is our homework together to actually fight these issues, right? There's some strategy that we can do related to improving gender situations in STEM fields. For example, we can provide more exposure and engagements that will facilitate women to actually being able to be exposed with the STEM industry or STEM fields by creating lots of activities, technology fairs, and workshops. And we have to work together not only with the companies, not only with the governments, but also a lot of other stakeholders such as academia, as well as nonprofits. And we can also create. I think one of the reason why we've talked about in our company we've discussed a lot with female students, especially those in STEM fields. Um, what we saw is the number of female students in STEM is very small, but the number of female graduates from STEM field is even lower because there's a lot of female students who switch their major in the middle of their educations because for a lot of reasons. One of them will be they don't see themselves, they don't see they will have a career in STEM fields because they don't see enough role models. And also there's a lot of pressure from their families, from their society. For example, for the pressure from the parents, because parents are the one who funded the educations of the students, right? And they want to see their investment back, right? A lot of time, parents encourage their daughter who are in the STEM field to switch their majors because they think STEM fields will not is not promising for them, for women. So a lot of things that we can do to address those issues. First is providing mentorship program. By providing mentorship program, we facilitate them, the female students, to have a direct access to role models. For example, women leaders in the energy sector, so they can be inspired. So they can actually see, oh, if I stay in this field, I will have a great career in the industry. And we can also work with a lot of stakeholders, providing scholarship as one of the strategies to address the funding challenge, because a lot of parents don't want to provide funding if their daughter want to study STEM.
Okay, I think that's like a really complex factors regarding about the socio-economic factors and also maybe about the cultures that may hinder the accessibility for women in STEM. I think we can move on to the next speaker first. So, Miss Latifa. Hello, Miss Latifa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Okay, so can you tell us the programs and initiatives sponsored by the U.S. Department of State to engage and support ASEAN's young leaders?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. And I can recall what Mr. Jason earlier said, that U.S. U.S. government trying to create a life-changing program for the ASEAN youth, probably including me because I was also a graduate from YSEAL program. So it's U.S. government program for developing youth in Southeast Asia to equip our leadership capabilities and other skills needed to facing the future world. And I've been involved in 2 programs of YSEAL. So basically, YSEAL program has a lot of sub-programs. It's YSEAL Professional Fellowship Program, and then there is a YSEAL Academic Fellowship Program, and then there is YSEAL Regional Workshop. There is a YSEAL Future Grant. It's like a seed funding for a project. And then there is a YSEAL Academy. So I've been involved in 2 out of 5 programs of YSEAL. It's a YSEAL Academic Fellowship Program and YSEAL Regional Workshop. So for the YSEAL Academic Program, I have a really great opportunity to visit the US. Actually, it's like last fall. in September 2022 to University of Connecticut. It's like exchange program for a month, and I learned a lot about social economy, about social entrepreneurship, and many things, and of course about the culture of the U.S. Itself. And I think the program like YSEALI is really a great opportunity for us, especially youth from Southeast Asia, to be exposed by more things that we cannot get in our region from the Western world. I think that's all a bit about the YCA program. Yeah.
Okay, so you say that you've been accepted to the YSEALI Academic Fellowship
Yes,
Program and
academic.
also in regional workshop.
Yes.
Okay, so how does the application process look like before getting accepted?
Okay, so first of all, when I was joined the regional workshop, it's during COVID. So during COVID, I just like trying to find a new activity, and from social media, I found there is this YC program, and then there is this regional workshop. I joined a regional workshop about smart city because at the time, back in 2020, I really loved to discuss about urban development issues, and there is a kind of project competition in that regional workshop, and then my group get a funding to go to Laos, to visit Laos, to help people in Laos about their there's an urban issue there. So that's about my regional workshop. Yeah.
Okay, so because you have been successful
Yep.
in two out of five
Mm.
YSEALI programs, so can you spill us like
Oh,
your
yeah.
secrets in having a successful
Yeah, yeah.
application?
So I think well, first of all, I would like to say that every youth has an equal opportunity to join YSEALI. It's not only for those who who kind of ambitious enough to find an opportunity, but I can say that this program is open to everyone who has an experience or not. And to be successful in this program, I think the first one is you need to have an eagerness to learn about something new, about something different. And then the second is you know what you want to learn as well. Like the YSEAL program provides a lot of topics that covers into economic development, environment, education, and many things, and that we can explore as a youth. So understand what you want to learn. I think that's also helpful, so you can prepare a better essay. So usually YC program asking the participants to write an essay about why you want to join the program, what you want to learn, and if we already have a better understanding about what we want to learn, I think it's going to be helpful to create a better essay. And then yeah, and then the third one probably have an open mind as well to connect with other fellows from Southeast Asia, because amongst youth in Southeast Asia, we have a really different perspective, even if we are coming from the same region. I think have an open mind to learn from each other. It's really helpful for the application. Yeah.
Okay, so overall, we can conclude that the first one is about having a curiosity
Yes.
mind, and the second one is to know because YSEALI provide a wide range of education. You have to know what you want to learn, and the third one is about having open mind within diversities as
Yes,
well.
that's true.
Okay, so right now we're moving on to our first speaker. Okay, so before you have already talked about what GIPA has done in the U.S. and also ASEAN as well. Now, it's just to connect those two. Like, what do you think can be done to improve economic relations of ASEAN as a region and also U.S. as well?
So I think that's a very good point. So thank you for the question. In regards to how are we able to improve that connection, personally from a GIPA perspective, it's always about the human capital. Because in the end, the one who are making these initiatives, the one who are establishing these objectives, and who are those, the people who are planning it are all humans in the end. And our priority is to be able to make sure that not only are we developing the human capital of Indonesia, but also to showcase our capabilities as it is existing. One of the biggest problems that currently a lot of stakeholders are trying to face, including all the ministries and also the counterparts that are abroad from the GIPA side, or even other organizations, for example, like the PPI Dunia or even Indonesian Diaspora Network, is that it's very hard to really represent the people who have those capabilities. And not only that, it's actually very hard to transfer those knowledge and skill sets. For example, doctors who are studying abroad, they are not able to come back to Indonesia and langsung praktek or use those practices that they've been able to develop abroad here in Indonesia, because our regulation states that in order to for you to be able to implement your skills as a doctor, you have to learn them here in Indonesia, meaning that all of those key challenges, key skills that we've been able to solve using our human capital abroad aren't able to be implemented back. Now, if I'm not mistaken, within the last 1 to 2 years, this regulation has been developing, and we're starting to be able to implement it. But in regards to the planning itself and making sure that they are able to come back, making sure that our healthcare system are actually being able to take the attributes of these human capital is still very difficult for us to manage, not only within GIPA's side, but also from the government side. So that's an issue that we're trying to tackle through a policy perspective by being able to give recommendations and see whether or not we are able to establish that. Now, the benefit for, let's say, the U.S., in this case, outside of ASEAN, is that the U.S. will be able to recognize that, let's say, if we're able to send individuals abroad, specifically to U.S., and make them learn regarding the STEM, well, outside of the technology, and specifically for the healthcare, they'll be able to be sent back and utilize that knowledge here in Indonesia. So it's those couple of things that we're trying to really push beyond the boundaries of what is currently existing in Indonesia and make sure that we're able to bring out the best in everyone.
Okay, so that's like really interesting because now we know that not only there's actually a challenge on getting people diaspora of Indonesia, because like there's like a mismatch between like the regulations and maybe like what is needed in Indonesia and what has been provided in the abroad as well. And I think it's really inspiring how GIPA is trying to provide a bridge between those mismatch together. Because you're trying to showcase, the human capital of Indonesian, and also, trying to, share those skill sets as well. So, what, like, do you have like any, because like you're currently pursuing in the policy part of it. Do you think? Do you have like any visions on how GIPA, involved in facilitating and enhancing these partnerships? Maybe like what is like the optimal outcome that you have already expected from this constant advocacy in terms of the policy part?
From a GIPA perspective, there has to be a lot of stakeholders that are involved in this. Simpler words from a simple organization will not be able to push anything or create any results whatsoever. So reflecting back on our previous event for the B20 side event, specifically for human capital, what we try to do is to agglomerate all of these key sectors within Indonesia. We identify three. So the first one is the green economy, the second one is healthcare, and the third one is digital. So what we try to do is that not only are we trying to represent people, the human capital of Indonesia abroad, but we're also trying to make the awareness happen within Indonesia through the businesses that are currently and directly operating or needing these human capital, whether, again, it's from the private sector or the public sector. So what we intended to do was to be able to share our knowledge and also perspectives within one single entity or organization and create an output from that. From our side specifically, we're trying to do that by being able to create somewhat of a guide for these companies and also possibly public sectors later on in the future, who knows, to be able to make sure how to implement the key knowledges and skills that are needed for the current century or the current decade. And one of the counterparts that we could do that from is by being able to provide the key sets of people that are able to tackle those, let's say, challenges within Indonesia and showcase to them, the businesses and also the ministries and also just the government in general. Look, the people are here. We don't need to reteach or reskill a lot of people here. We just need to bring the people that already have those sets of skills abroad and make them come back here or give them a reason why, and also make it easier for them to come back. So it's more on that facilitation and being able to make sure that everyone understands, everyone knows that this is what we already have, and everything is possible to do.
Okay, so that's really amazing as well. So after all of this, advocating for, the human capital from GIPA, the next step, the big step is that, having like representatives from maybe like in the private sector and public sector to connect these human capitals as well.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so thank you for Mr. Alif. Now we're moving to Mr. Shahid. So you've already talked about woman accessibility in STEM careers. So now, from your perspective, how can ASEAN and the U.S. collaborate to ensure that the accessibility of this woman, having their voices heard in terms of decision making and having all these relevant and important educations needed to be accessible.
Okay, thank you. I think I would like first to I would like to echo what Alif has mentioned before about the importance of human capital. And related to human capital, we are going to talk about capacity building, right? Capability building. I think one of the stellar example is Wisely programs that Latifah has joined. That's one of the stellar example of the cooperation or partnership between the U.S. and ASEAN to actually improve the capability of human capital, including women. So I believe there's a lot of stress on diversity and gender equality including in the Wisely program as well. And it is also very important when we're talking about women in economy, we're talking not, so when we're talking about gender equality, we're not only talking about social issues, but we're also talking about the economy issues. It's a business issue because right now, for example, I think roughly only 50% of women are joining the workforce, right? And compared to the men, it's still way very low, right? I think about 80% of Indonesian male joining the workforce, and it means that we still have a lot of untapped resource, untapped skills, untapped talents that we should fully utilize to actually improve the economy. And how is one of the keys the capability building, right? So a lot of activities in the area of capability building that can be done by promoting partnership between the U.S. and the ASEAN. One of the examples that I also experienced is, so my company, Pertamina, work a lot with U.S. agencies through USAID. And what I learned from their activities is for every project that USAID funded, there has to be a mandatory gender-specific activities for each project. So even if the project is on the energy, on the renewable energy, there always has to be gender-related activities, as mostly in capability building of developing female in energy talent to actually build their skills, build their confidence to be able to compete, not to compete, but to participate in the leadership positions, so that they can involve decision-making process. Other than the capability building, I think it is also very important to make sure that women have access to policy making process. Um, a lot of activities can be done between US and ASEAN. I think we have in 2021 we launched the ASEAN Gender Mainstreaming Framework, which is also supported by the U.S. agencies, and it is a very important milestone for gender mainstreaming in ASEAN. But I think the key is, or the one thing that we should not forget is we have to promote participation of women in developing those policies, because they are the one who dealing with their problems, right? And we cannot. We need to hear more from them. We need to understand their perspective, what they actually need, what they actually experience, and making a good policies for them, right? And the other area that we can do is related to, when we're talking about economy, we're talking about how to accelerate the participation of women in the economy. Promoting women to join the workforce is important, but also the other thing that is also important is empowering them to actually build the economy or build the business. Because by building a business, starting a business, women can not only help themselves, but also they can help other women by providing jobs, for example. So a lot of things that can, a lot of opportunities for partnership between US and ASEAN to help women developing their business. One of the example, I think, what President Biden mentioned in last year's special summit between US and ASEAN is the launch of ASEAN SME Academy, which is an online learning platform that can be accessed by everyone, not only female, of course, but the existence of SMA Academy, ASEAN SME Academy, is actually helping a lot of people, especially women, to be able to develop businesses. And I think one of the great innovations or development from SME Academy is the availability of courses that is available in local language. So maybe when we launch it the first time, it's all the courses were in English, but I think recently they already provide a lot of great courses, especially related to small, medium enterprises development that is available in local language such as Indonesian, Thai, and Vietnamese.
Okay, so I think we only have like 12 minutes left, but I think from our conversation we have already talked about the challenges and also the opportunities in the human capital in the Indonesia and ASEAN in general. So, for example, Mr. Alif has said that in the challenges is that maybe like there is like a mismatch about like how people abroad are unable to come back, and one of your solution is about to have representative of GIPA in private and also public sectors, especially in about green economy, digitalization, and also about health. And while Mr. Shahid already talked about the accessibility of women through capacity building and also mentoring, and also already touched on to about like the multilateral cooperation with the U.S. such as ASEAN SME Academy, and also one of the example is about YSILI as well. So right now I would like to move on to our third speakers. So from your experience, you
Yeah.
know, of meeting diverse young leaders from ASEAN, because as you said before that, you know, the open-mindedness is
Yeah.
really important when you become a YSEALI awardee.
Yeah.
So can you notify what are the key leadership qualities that are necessary to promote strong ASEAN-U.S. student relationships? So maybe students from who watch this from all over the world can also maybe equip those qualities that you said here.
Okay. Yeah, probably two things. First is innovation. I think leaders, all young leaders across ASEAN, need to be now need to be, you know, like have more creativity to innovate something to solve their own country issue, or probably across region. And the second is probably collaboration, because based on data, currently we have like around 34% of population in ASEAN is youth, and like it's around 200 million, and I can say that that's a lot of people, right? I think if we can have a capacity to collaborate with all of the people, not only from our country but from the other country in ASEAN, especially about the youth. I think it's can you know, like increase the impact of what we can do as a youth to solve our to solve the problems in our society. Yeah.
Okay, so after being, you know, former YSEALI awardees, how do you leverage these relationships to, you know, strengthen greater
Yeah.
collaboration between, you know, diverse international
Yeah.
communities?
Yeah. So during YSEAL program, we actually be encouraged to create a certain project. Like probably for me, I focus on mental health, and there is my friend who also focus on interested in mental health in probably in Malaysia or in Brunei. And after the program, after the YSEAL program, it's I think it's really important for us to stay connected to each other, and then probably if there is a chance to collaborate our project together, it's gonna be great. For instance, my friend has a project in tourism, and he also collaborate with the other friends, our friends in Myanmar, so to tap into the same issue about tourism in our region. I think that's really a great idea to as a after we got some knowledge from the program, then we can you know, leverage our impact by collaborating with each other, and then probably combine our ideas together to create another project together. Yeah.
Okay, so that's really interesting because Wisely is not only providing, you know, about the courses, about
Yep.
Needed knowledge, but also, you know, the platform to connect with like-minded
That's true.
Southeast Asian young leaders, and you know, giving them platforms to discuss, to further, you know, innovations
Yeah.
with, you know, qualities that you've said before as well. So I would like to move on to Mr. Shahid as well. So before we have talked about, you know, about gender, about sustainability, about the human capital of it. So now I would like to focus more on the environment. So what do you think, you know, especially your position in the, Pertamina as well? Like, what challenges have arisen in the implementation of green policies and initiatives in ASEAN countries?
I think there's a lot of challenge, but if we want to connect the environment challenge with the, for example, gender issues, there's also a lot of challenge or issues that we have to address. For example, women are now participating more in low paying jobs that is related to that is vulnerable to climate change. For example, in agriculture, in forestry, and fisheries, and it is important to actually help them to to empower them to do do a better to have access to better technology in agriculture, for example, as well as in forestry and fisheries, to help us to tackle the climate challenge as well. Because a lot of climate issues are related to agriculture. A lot of climate issues are related to peternakan, to the farming, for example. A lot of pollutions, a lot of climate-related gas are related to those sectors, and it is very important to empower women to actually do their jobs in the agriculture industries, in forestry and farming, with a better technology, equip them with a better technology, providing a better knowledge for them to improve the environmental management in those industries. When we're talking about energy, it's also one of the biggest challenges to attract more women to energy business, and if we want to develop our renewable energy, if we want to move away, for example, from the fossil fuel energy, we need more people who works in the industry, and exploring or giving exposure, providing access for women to the industry is very important, because right now it's actually very competitive for energy industries such as Pertamina to attract more people joining the industry. More young people are more interested in tech and startup, right? So by tapping into this unexplored population, unexplored pool of talent, which is women, is very important to for energy companies to actually improve their renewable energy businesses, develop their renewable energy business, and hopefully in the future, of course, we can have a better energy mix, yeah, in the region.
Okay, so that's really interesting as well, because you're saying that the challenges that may arise is maybe about lack of technology and also lack of gender mainstreaming in the energy sectors. So maybe like energy sectors can try other initiatives to make these sectors like more attractive to women as well. So from these challenges that you have said, how can the U.S. provide support in overcoming these challenges?
I think I can share one, or maybe more than one of our experience, what we do in Pertamina. We actually have a lot of partnership with U.S. agencies in the area of improving the workplace conditions in the company related to gender. For example, we have respect for work. We are developing respect for workplace policy. We want to make sure that everyone feels welcome, everyone feels safe working in the energy industry, especially those who are working in the remote facilities, right? And we receive a lot of help and support from the U.S. agencies to actually developing the instrument for implementation of respect workplace policy, from the policies itself, the reporting mechanism, the capability building of the leaders to actually intervene when there's incidents related to respect for workplace. And we also working right now. One of the programs that we have is Women Leadership Accelerator Program, and with the goals is to accelerate the readiness of our female talent to join the leadership positions in the company. And we also work with U.S. agencies through USAID to prepare them, to make them more confident to tackle the leadership challenges.
Okay, so it's really motivating about how, when facing all those challenges that we have in green initiatives, and also about like gender mainstreaming, is that we keep trying to connect with multilateral and foreign actors to work together to the same goals. So I think just for the last 40 minutes, we are going to open Q&A sessions. So in my iPad right here, we already have several questions from all over social platforms that at America has. So, but before that, maybe I would like to ask for people in the room with me right now. You can raise your hands if you have a question to Mr. Shahid first, specifically because he has other another meeting to go to. So maybe if you have any questions specifically about about gender, about the sustainability, about the workplace, can you please raise your hands? Okay, I'm going to do a countdown for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so for the first question, we have Andrea here. She asked about how will the joint vision help to connect people in ASEAN and the U.S. Maybe Mr. Shahid, you can answer first.
Okay, so the joint vision cover basically almost all sectors, almost all topics, and there's a lot. We have discussed a lot on the opportunities and activities that can enable strong partnership between the U.S. and ASEAN. And related to Indonesian Youth Diplomacy, for example, this year we are having the ASEAN Youth Agenda, and I think the U.S. has also a very strong interest in ASEAN, especially with the Indo-Pacific strategy. So there's a lot of opportunities for the U.S. to actually involve in the ASEAN agenda, including what we have in Indonesian Youth Diplomacy. We are inviting U.S. delegation as well to our ASEAN Youth agenda this year because, and they also have confirmed their participations because we think it is very important for ASEAN to actually connect with the U.S., right? Because we have for example, we have our programs, we have our strategies, we have our plan, but we cannot implement those plans by ourselves in the region. We actually have to connect with more with the global society, including the U.S. and especially with the U.S. Because a lot of technology, a lot of resources, a lot of knowledge we can learn from the U.S. through a lot of activities such as YSILI, as well as what those activities that GIPA has initiated.
Okay, so I would like to remind participants from all over platforms and on-site as well. You can ask maybe about the economic side, or maybe about the gender and sustainability, or about the emerging young leaders, especially if you want to, register as YSILI awardees as well. So moving on, maybe Mr. Alif has already said something as well about how the joint vision help to connect people in ASEAN and the U.S.
Okay. So first of all, based on my understanding, the U.S. have offered and also established a lot of points regarding to how much they want to help the ASEAN. not only for bilateral benefit, because ASEAN itself within a global economy is a very strategic region that holds a very big contribution to the global GDP, and also based on how the global markets currently work. Now, from my understanding, one of the biggest issues that I think ASEAN needs to be able to collaborate with, starting from the ASEAN summit later on this August, is that despite the fact that the U.S. have already offered a lot of help, and also a lot of establishments in regards to what they can help with, ASEAN itself is a region that comprises of many different and also many different environments and also countries, meaning that the U.S. has to be able to navigate all single countries and not just one entity. And as an entity, we need to be able to make sure that not only are we interested to be able to take in all of these help from U.S. for other countries, but also to be able to make sure that we have the proper governance to be able to take it in, implement it well, and with proper planning. So that's one of the big issues right now. In each sector, in each government, in each country, there are all different issues. For example, let's say from my experience, I've been primarily involved within the energy sector, similar to Pak Syahid. And in regards to that, for example, let's say Indonesia, Indonesia when it comes to the energy sector is a bit more complicated than any other countries in comparison to, let's say, Vietnam or Philippines when it comes to investments from US in this case. The first one is that Indonesia, when it comes to the energy sector, are primarily a monopoly, where it's primarily governed by either the ministry itself or PLN for distribution, for the channeling, transmission, and also for the commercialization of it. Meaning that investors, when they want to, let's say, invest into Indonesia, especially the investors from the US, it's very difficult for them to invest here because they don't understand whether or not they are able to, let's say, if they were to lend money to Indonesia, they don't understand whether or not they're able to do two things: either have that money back guaranteed as a part of the loan, and be able to make sure that they're able to attain some financial benefits from healthy business relationships. So those type of things is something, for example, in Indonesia is very difficult to navigate. It's also very difficult for other countries as well, where in another case in Vietnam, their problem is more, primarily with the governance, where they have a lot of issues with corruption and also issues with data governance, or business are required to provide all of their data, meaning that there are no data security or privacy for businesses. So it's these type of things that we need to be able to cooperate together, ASEAN, and show good examples of before we're able to make sure that in front of the U.S. itself, we need to show that we're together and we're a united front to be able to receive and also make sure that we can implement all of these things that we're expecting from our partners. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to help with KIPA. Me personally, for my day job, where we're trying to assist and also recommend either policies or connect the right stakeholders together to make sure that they understand and also establish a common ground.
Okay, so that's really interesting because I think it gives you like a little bit more nuance and perspective, because not only when we're receiving help, we don't only we have to make sure that we also have the system, the regulation,
Exactly, yeah.
the capability to better make use of those help.
Yeah.
Based on from our for example, about like the monopoly of our energy sectors, and about like maybe about data protection and also corruption as well. So I think that's really interesting, and especially it's really motivating about how GIPA is already already have a vision about it as well. And we also have another question from Maya in Instagram. She said, Indonesia is currently facing a potential demographic dividend, meaning there will be rapid urbanization, which leads to more investment in physical as well as human infrastructure. Based on your simple calculation and extensive experience, what are some of the key leadership skills for us, the next generation of Indonesian female leaders, need to prepare to bring to the table, and how can these skills be leveraged for the nation's collective success. Okay, so basically the questions is about like the first question is about like key leadership skills, and the second question is about like how can we leverage these skills. So maybe Miss Latifa already have.
Yeah, so as a probably as a female and used to be a leader as well, I think one of the key successful probably trait that we need to have as a female leader is I think we are privileged enough to have this as a woman is empathy. So I think based on study, women is actually have a higher empathy scale compared with men, and I think that empathy skill can really helpful as a leader to understand to really understand about the problem and to gather people together to achieve the common goal itself. Yeah, I think empathy is like one thing that really helpful as a female leader to lead the team to understand what the team needs and then to understand how we can you know uh, going into the same mission together with that empathy skill. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe for the next question, how can these skills be leveraged for nations' collective success?
Well, I think it's empathy sounds like simple thing, right? But actually, if we, all leaders have high empathy skill, I think we can really tap into the right problem, and we can create a better solution. So I think because of that, because we can create a better solution, of course, we can like we can increase anything that we want to solve about the issues in the country itself. Yeah.
I think I would like
Yep.
to jump in
Mhm.
related to that, as Latifa mentioned that um, it's given in female, right, to have higher empathy, for example, for people. What we have to do is providing them access to actually
Yeah.
implement them in the economy, so we can leverage those skills and traits that female has or women has to help us making a better decision, making better policies, so that we can we can benefit most from that.
Okay, so I think the questions about key leadership skills is also kind of similar about the questions that I have asked you before, Miss Latifa, about key leadership skills, which you have already answered about being curious and being open-minded as well. Okay, so the next question is about what's how will the joint vision promote economic cooperation between ASEAN and the U.S.? So maybe from Mr. Alif, maybe you can answer it first. Basically about the promotion of economic cooperation.
Promotion of economic. That's a very big topic, and it's also very broad. I think it's very similar to the answers that I was able to answer before. It's primarily based on the cooperation of making sure that we're. I think again the biggest problem is mostly on the understanding side of making sure that everyone understands within the same stances, and that requires, let's say, for an example, the key skill that our fellow speaker here have already said. It requires a lot of empathy. It requires a lot of a necessity to really be understanding through your communication skills. And this is all up to us based on the leaders, whether it's future or or the present within the ASEAN and U.S. Joint vision or the summit, where these leaders are directly need to be able to understand within the same footprint in a way. And in that case, once we're able to do that, the joint vision itself will be able to create a lot of impacts. Personally, from the economic perspective, for an example, e-commerce, as Mas Shahid have already specified from the tech part of this conversation, is a very big thing with youth. Well, based on the global data, or specifically based on the ASEAN-U.S joint vision, there's a passage where it says that the e-commerce industry, or the global e-commerce industry right now, ASEAN represents half, or roughly about below 1% of the global e-commerce industry in the world. However, our GDP contribution, ASEAN's region GDP contribution right now is roughly about 3 to 4%, meaning that right now the majority of our commerce are still underrepresented within the e-commerce part, which is technically a very big portion of our youth have very big interest in. So there are definitely identifiable gaps that the youth haven't been able to be informed yet, where a lot of their interests, a lot of their key skills that they have right now are technically aligned with what the ASEAN Youth Joint Vision have. It's just a matter of being able to communicate, again, seeing from a similar standpoint, and being able to make sure that all stakeholders understand the same vision, the same key outcomes. It's a matter of that aspect that will be able to bring forth the implementation and also the result. In this case, again, it goes back to we already have the interest, we already have the supply of the human capital, we already have the goals that are set by the nations, by the region, by the U.S. joint vision. It's just a matter of connecting those two bridges.
Okay, so I think it's interesting about like how we have already heard it again and again about like untapped resources that we should have been potential to make it something bigger. For example, you've said before about Indonesian who has been abroad, and you have already said about the ASEAN youth that may have like the needed attributes in e-commerce, and Shahid has also said about this capacities that maybe like women have but like are inaccessible to because of the complex factors from socio-economic, while Miss Latifa has already said about like more on the opportunity part of it. How can we do to tap these resources as well from YSEALI? So I would like to maybe like expand these questions a little bit. So from the economic part has been answered from Mr. Alif. So maybe from Miss Latifa can answer about the young leaders, the impact of joint vision to the young leaders.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I think as I mentioned before, actually 34% of Southeast Asian population is youth. So I think in the future, this is a really big opportunity if as a young leaders of Southeast Asia, now we have like the opportunity, we have the platform. Now it's about ourselves, right? Do we want to increase our capability or not? So the decision is up to us, right? I think now it's time to how can we make sure that all young leaders in Southeast Asia want to use this opportunity as a platform to grow, to be a better person, and to contribute back to their community. I think the work that we need to do now is how we can make sure that all youth and potential young leaders in Southeast Asia fully informed about these opportunities, and then they have an equal access to get into that platform, into this platform, and to join to this platform, and then after that they can benefit to their communities as well.
Okay, so I think we have seen the same pattern as well. So for example, there's like a mismatch about like the supply and demand as well. So for example, maybe we have already have like the sufficient supply for it, but like for us to connect these young leaders to accessible opportunities such as YSEALI, or maybe like working in e-commerce as well, that's one of the challenges as well. Okay, so as I said before, I would like to expand this. Maybe like you can answer about how will joint vision promote cooperation between ASEAN and the U.S. In terms of gender and sustainability?
Thank you. So I think one of the most interesting part of the joint vision is actually the part where we discuss the people-to-people connectivity, which is where the gender issues are discussed. And what we haven't really talked about is how we enable women to actually join the workforce, starting the business, opening jobs for people by providing access to capital. And that's one of the most important factors to help them to be able to join in the economic activities, right? Providing them access to capital, providing them access to market, and also providing them access to mentorship, because there's a lot of good examples, good experience that we can learn from women entrepreneurs, for example, in the U.S. And a lot of their experience can definitely help ASEAN women entrepreneurs to improve their businesses.
Okay, so Mr. Shahid also, further reiterate the importance of connectivity and, connecting this supply and demand about our resources as well. So I would like to come back to the on-site participants. Does any of the participants here have a question? We have already talked about, repeating patterns about, the human capitals and what can we do about it to match these skills, and maybe how we need some capacity building, mentorship, and representatives in public and private sectors, and having more opportunities to join opportunities that is given from the U.S. government, for example, YSEALI academic. So does anyone from the on-site has question? I would do 5 seconds countdown. 5, 4, 3. Okay.
Hi everyone. My name is Azia. First of all, I would like to thank you for creating this platform. It was very insightful. So my question is regarding the topic of gender equality. So I think it will be specifically directed towards Shahid. So basically, the discussion also mentioned a bit about like renewable energy and greener economy objective that Indonesia is currently dealing with, and I would like to know whether it is more on the impact level side, where we know that how this transition of renewable energy could also resulting in a job loss, income loss from a lot of sectors, right? And when we get to that, we can also see like how men-related fields could also affect the woman-related fields. So I would like to know more on the initiatives or perhaps any mitigation that probably Pertamina or the other organizations itself that related to the energy sector mitigate this kind of issue, where perhaps the job loss in the men-related field has the potential to disrupt the woman-related field of jobs, in which it also would become a huge issue in terms of security of jobs for women itself. So I think that would be my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the questions. Just transition is also a big issue here when we're talking about energy transition. We want to make sure that no one is left behind, no one is negatively impacted by the transition. So ensuring just transition is as important as talking about how we expedite the energy transitions. I think reskilling is one of the strategies that we have to implement because a lot of people already in the workforce, in energy workforce, for example, as you mentioned, mostly are they're mostly are male workforce, right? And by providing a reskilling activities for them to be able to move from their current jobs to more greener jobs, for example, is important. What is also important is improving or providing more vocational trainings to help school to work transitions, because, for example, a lot of students currently studying fossil fuel energy field, right? And in the future, there will be less fossil fuel energy related jobs. There will be more renewable energy jobs. So providing vocational trainings for those to transfer their knowledge, to reskill their knowledge and their skills from school and to prepare them to be ready for the green energy jobs is also important. So yeah, I think the reskilling, the providing vocational trainings is one of the a lot of great strategies that we can do. Yeah.
Okay, do you have any follow-up questions regarding that answer? Okay, thank you so much. Now, I think that's a really interesting, reference point to, just transition, which I think we can also expand that, answer through the perspective of emerging young leaders and also economics as well. So maybe can you, maybe Ms. Latifa, tell us a bit more about how does like emerging young leaders prepare to going through just transition, just energy transition as well, which are going to be a lot of turmoil, especially in terms of education and also workplace as well.
Okay, probably I'm not really talking about energy sector, but industry in general, right? I think change is inevitable now. Everything can be changed in probably every week. Yeah, so I agree with Pak Shahid mentioned that we as a youth, what we need to do is to prepare our best, to prepare our best to prepare ourselves with skills that relevant to the future world, like technology and any more digital skills. I think first is upskilling ourselves, and then the second is expanding our network. I think networking is really important right now. As a young leaders, we need to not only have a network within our communities, but probably abroad, and probably we can also have a network in the U.S. as well, to connect with each other. I think those two things can help us whenever the change is happen and then affecting us as a youth. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you emphasize a really great point that change is not only maybe about like the energy sector, but maybe a lot of life that happens as a youth. Maybe we can have like a lot of change, and for us to better adapt to that is through upskilling and also connecting, have a better connection as well. I think having a conversation about youth in just transition is really important because like we are the future, we are the future
That's
leaders. We are going to experience the brunt of the climate change. So I think it's really important for us as a youth to prepare for those with the points that you have already mentioned. Okay, now as I said before, we will expand the questions to maybe the economic sector in the just transition as well.
Actually, the just transition is actually a very unique thing to note because it's a very big foundation of not specifically U.S. ASEAN relationships, but U.S. Indonesian relationship at the moment. The reason why is because back in October, roughly about October, November 2022 last year, the reason why we're able to get the endowment of $20 billion in the first place is because our relationship with countries, for example, U.S., the G7 countries, and a couple of other countries that saw that we needed to prioritize the existing to prioritize changing the existing capabilities of Indonesia, specifically for energy and also renewable energy, to make sure that we can accommodate the global goals and objectives. In regards to that itself, the just transition touches upon a lot of factors. For an example, from the young leaders, from the gender, that's actually one of the factors that are being looked into by the Ministry of Finance, who are the quote unquote the formal governing body of that specific aspect of the transition. Where, for an example, the gender aspect is actually a requirement if you were, let's say, a business or a business or a company who would like to be able to attain those funds. You need to be able to provide or a plan to make sure that you're able to give a just or protection of gender and also status quo. Status quo for indigenous people, for vulnerable groups, that all affects and also takes into account of the just transition outside of economy. And it looks into a lot of different factors where the youth is also able to participate. There are many aspects, for example, the technical from the STEM perspective. There are many aspects from the policy perspective for more of the social majors of young leaders. There are also aspects of finance for more on the financial side. There are many aspects that a lot of people within Indonesia, whether it's youth or anyone, no matter what the gender is or the age is, to be able to participate in within this movement today. And we've been able to see that previously with the big digital transformation that's been going on within the last previous decade, where everyone started moving into tech. I personally believe that there will be another transition or transformation once we understand how the just transition is being planned, when the plan comes out, who can participate, how can they participate. Once it's already been identified, everyone will be able to participate in some way, simply because the investment is there and the doors are now being opened to those opportunities. So, for example, I graduated from ITB, Institute of Technology Bandung, and there were a lot of people within my age, specifically talking about gender gap, females, that were coming from majors, for example, environmental engineering, or those type of STEM fields that were primarily related more towards the renewable energy sector, where when I graduated or when I came into ITB, there weren't a lot of opportunities to be a part of those sectors that are now being established and also opening up prospects, simply because within our government, within our country, and also within our relations with, let's say, U.S. and also other countries, we're starting to establish the need and also necessity to start focusing on those sectors. So now it's not just a foundation of everyone who who are interested in it can go, but it's also a foundation of a lot of gender gaps that are primarily existing within that area, a lot of interest within that area, that's opening foundations to prospects, job prospects, and doors for them to be able to pursue the interests that they want to pursue in the first place. So it's more of an alignment now, more than ever. I think the interest was already there. It's just that now we're offering more opportunities within that case.
Okay, so I think this is also one of the reason why I would like to expand Sir Shahid answers, because just transition from we've just heard, it's not just about the transition from let's say coal or oil to clean energy, but also a whole barrage of factors in terms of let's say like education, and also about like the upskilling of youth, about like how there are maybe like some job loss, but also there are also going to be like green jobs that are going to be generated as well. So I think as youth, I think it's important for us to refer back to Ms. Latifa's answer, about like what are the key characteristics that we can relate back into. Okay, so maybe as our last questions, we have from Instagram. It's from George. So it's about, what steps can government and civil society organizations take to promote greater understanding and cooperation between ASEAN and the U.S. So basically, this is more about the government and civil society organizations to improve ASEAN-U.S. cooperation. So maybe Mr. Sahid, you would like to answer first.
I think dialogue is the key, right? Providing space for government and people to discuss. The people can share their ideas, they can share their concerns, they can share their insights, and the government has to be able to actually listen and understand what the people feels, what the people experience. So providing more dialogues, establishing more avenue for government and people to cooperate, to collaborate, to discuss is very important. And I think what we have seen for the past few years, for example, in ASEAN this year, we have some in ASEAN Summit this year, we have some interface sessions where, for example, youth also has the opportunity to actually tell the ASEAN leaders what they feel, what they say, what they recommend for the leaders from their perspective, from the youth perspective. So those kind of small activities are actually very crucial because it is very rare for leaders in the sense of representative of the government to actually have the opportunity to directly communicate or directly listen to what the civil society says.
Okay, so it's about more about listening, and maybe if we, circle back to Miss Latifa said, it's about empathy as well. Okay, so maybe before I wanna, expand these questions as well, maybe I would like to move back to on-site participants. If you guys have questions about this, maybe you guys can raise your hand. This is going to be my last, cue. Okay, I'm going to count down from 5. Okay.
Yep. So, hello everyone. My name is Timothy, and yeah, I think I want to step back to Latifa. So, you're mentioning a lot of about youth leadership, right? So, I think when we're talking about youth leadership, it's like more like a common goal for everyone, like from embassy to consulting, from like these people kind of working towards to that state, right? So I'm a bit curious, like, do you have any ideal state point where we able to reach that point? We knew that we actually have succeed to develop our youth leaderships, our youth leadership. So yeah, I think that's the questions.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I think, in my personal opinion, there is no, the ideal number of how can we measure the success of uh, youth youth leadership itself. What you mean? But probably what we can see the output is how many people that can be benefit by the youth itself. So I think the success indicator of the youth leadership in here, probably if the youth can not only give benefit to themselves but to the other as well, and how many, it depends, right? It depends. Probably someone can only benefit their a village of like in probably in West Java, but um, that that youth done to that village, it's actually impacting life of whole people in that village, right? So I think how we can measure the success is it depends on what kind of impact that we want to make, and I can say that anything, as long as it is impactful to our communities, it's already successful. Yeah.
Okay, so do you have follow-up questions about that? Okay, so I would like to, expand the questions that we've just had before, which is about, steps that, governments and civil society organizations can take to promote greater understanding and cooperation between ASEAN and the U.S. But, I would like to expand these questions into being, just maybe youth organizations. Maybe you can answer that perfect.
I think echoing what Pak Shahid has mentioned before, after dialogue, probably the government and the organization, the civil organization, can provide more platforms and supporting the youth itself to grow. So, for instance, the YSEAL program, I heard that they want to increase the number of the awardees for the next couple of years, and I think that's really great. Means that the youth have more opportunities and have more options to grow based on their passion. Yeah, I think that's my answer about that.
Okay, so I think it's also a good news for the viewers as well that UYCL is opening up for more applicants as well. So
Yeah, I heard that from Mr. Jason.
okay, yeah,
That's true.
yeah. So we are further reiterating
Yes.
the fact. So now for the last 2 minutes, would you like to about the business and the economic sectors and how do we promote understanding between ASEAN and the U.S.
Okay, so for the business and economic sector, I'll make this fairly quick because I actually have additional points I'd like to add from Pak Shahid and also Tifa's comments regarding to youth and also how we're able to agglomerate that. So from the business and economics perspective, actually it's still very similar to what they said. It's more about bringing the dialogue, but it's not just between the youth, it's not just between the youth and governments, but it's also between, for example, government to government and government to youth to youth. It's more of that circle because a lot of these issues come from the information silos or barriers between so many stakeholders that are that exist within this realm of ASEAN and US. And within ASEAN and US, it's still very simple because it's more bilateral. It's either one government or one entity with another. But within the government and also within the countries itself, there are just so many different stakeholders and with so many different perspectives. But it's a matter of not prioritizing. It's a matter of making sure that you've heard every single one, not only within youth, the government, but also from government to government. For example, within the context of youth again, for example, the new Minister of Youth and Sports, it's I think he's the first minister that is also not just someone who's able to become the minister, but also a youth himself, which is still fairly new for us as a concept. Outside of like special staffs or anything like that, there are now people, especially within our age and within our generation, that are now taking steps and leading our economy and also our policies today. I think that's the type of initiatives that we need to be able to make as a country to be able to make sure that all of the age groups and also communities are heard. But also it goes down to, let's say, different type of interests outside of age group and gender. For example, a lot of people that, or at least youth that are informed of what's happening with, let's say, just transition or with any other initiatives such as the ASEAN-U.S. joint vision are most likely or primarily those with social study majors, simply because they're most of the target group that will understand or learn it within their academics or anything like that. We need to be able to make sure that we can bridge between the STEM graduates, between the social studies, between any type of majors, to show them that we need to have a collective understanding of everything that's been happening from every single different type of perspectives, so then we can bridge and also make sure that we can contribute to one single factor or one single unit / objective. That's, I think, one of the primary things that we need to do outside of economics and business, or more of how to drive more of the economics and business for the future.
Okay, so I think it's really interesting because about like how diverse our speakers today, from the economic part, about the youth part, and about like the gender and sustainability part. But like we are reiterating the same and the emphasizing the same kind of topics. So for example, basically the answer is about you just having dialogue, multisectoral dialogue to integrate and align our objectives to the same kind of goals as well. So this is going to my closing statement as well. So we have already listened and discussed about ASEAN-U.S joint vision, especially in the economics, gender sustainability, and young leaders aspect. Now, in the multilateral dialogue, it's important that we can balance both economic growth and environmental sustainability because we can't just have one while abandoning the other. In the process, we can also push our system to be more inclusive for women's voices and emerging young leaders as well. Through these initiatives, hopefully we can have a sustainable development that can meet the requirements of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That's it for me. Thank you so much. And thank you for the speakers as well, from Mr. Alif, Ms. Latifa, and also Mr. Shahid as well.
All right. Can we have another big round of applause for our speakers along with our moderator? Thank you very much to all speakers and our moderator for today's very insightful session. And we can actually support the ASEAN-U.S. joint vision by strengthening people participation, which can also be improved through a number of approaches such as education and capacity building. So earlier in this event, we asked the audience a question, if you remember, and the question was, in what year was the ASEAN-U.S. Special Summit first held in Washington, D.C.? And the correct answer to that is B, 2022. Shout out to today's lucky one at Prilly Irianti from Instagram for answering correctly. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in our question of the day. Don't forget to tune in next time and catch a chance to get a live shout out from us. You can also contribute more event ideas through our website at www.atmerica.or.id. Submit your event ideas and we will make it for you. Also follow us on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at ATMerica for interesting contents, giveaways, and so much more. And click the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, it's time to say farewell. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Hasna. See you on the next ATMerica event. Bye-bye, everybody.